And just like that, it's me, Jen Kirkman, with another wine and recap of And Just Like That. This is episode 4. I'm here in my Dunkin' Donuts zip-up onesie. You don't see fashion like this on Sex and the City. They don't have the fucking guts. I'm going to talk about everything that happens in this episode. Charlotte trying to make black friends, that old tired plot line again. Miranda with her sort of drinking problem that seems totally under control. Big still dead. Carrie's walking around with his ashes. She's got a new friend who tells her off finally. I don't mean finally the friend that she just met tells her off, but finally someone tells fucking Carrie off. But let's just start with the podcast. I need this podcast. I need a terrorist attack to happen in whatever building that podcast is being filmed in. I need something to end this dreadful podcast. Who's this bitch that comes rolling in? Colleen, get your socials up. It's like, all that scene says to me is, we cast someone in a wheelchair. Like, they may as well just have her come in and go, I'm in a wheelchair, and we're not even mentioning that because that's not what the scene is about, because that's how progressive the show is. But she's acting like a complete asshole. I don't want to see, hey, people in wheelchairs can be assholes too. She is totally disrespectful. Also, why do I need to see Bobby Lee? He is actually a comedian with a podcast. We can see him anytime. Why is he in every episode? No Samantha, but Bobby Lee. That's not the world I want to live in, but that's the world I live in, where COVID comes back again. Samantha doesn't. We've got Bobby Lee. We've got Carrie on a podcast where they make worse puns than even the old Sex in the City, if that's even possible, because they ran out of puns and they just have to create things that aren't puns, like these soundboard things like Trigger Alert or whatever they're doing on that godforsaken podcast. And they're telling Carrie to do her social media. I'll say it again. Carrie, stop working. I know people get joy out of working, but this isn't working. You're getting abused by non-binary people and people in wheelchairs just for the sake of trying to look woke. Stop. Just stop. Just put on your headphones, get in that soundproof closet in your old apartment, let all the dresses soundproof you out, and tell your own stories. Che can fucking edit it when she's not doing comedy concerts. Oh my God. It's too hot in this onesie because these takes are too hot. Okay. So Miranda comes home from the comedy concert that Che did. I'm still living off the fumes of anger of what a dumb special that was. And she smells like pot because she had Che shotgun marijuana into her mouth. Okay. And her son Brady and his shitty girlfriend, whatever her name is, I don't need to know her name. If I know her name, that's information in my mind that is taking too much space. You know, like when your phone, you're going to delete some things, you pick the photo that means nothing to you, delete it. I've got to keep room in my brain for something important. Learning something about the next COVID variant. I can't know this girl's name. I don't want to know. Don't even tell me. I don't want to know. So this girlfriend that lives there, which again, where are her parents? She's saying to Miranda, you smell like pot. Come on, Miranda. Don't call her Miranda. She's Mrs. Hobbs or whatever the fuck her name is. Because Steve's last name is Brady, but they named the kid Brady, so his name is Brady Hobbs. So because whatever you call, don't call her Miranda. Even though I hate Miranda and Cynthia Nixon, I would show her some respect. And I would call her Ms. Hobbs. I'd even call her Ms. Nixon. I would just not call her the governor of New York. Thank God she didn't win. I'll say it again. Can you imagine Cynthia Nixon running the entire COVID thing? It's not what this is about. Anyway, hey, Miranda, you know, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I was at a comedy concert and there were lots of alternative types smoking marijuana. And the girlfriend goes, alternative types? Alternative to what? And Miranda says, I'm not caffeinated enough to have this conversation. Now, I don't understand the writing there. See, I can always hear where the writers love the lines. Oh, I'm not caffeinated enough to have this conversation. That's such a Miranda thing. Well, make it make sense. Have them say, did you smoke pot or do you just smell like it? Like, whoa, I don't just smell it on your clothes. I smell it on your breath. I'm not caffeinated enough to have this conversation and I owe you an apology. You know what I mean? Like two things I need for this conversation. Caffeine and for you to be someone that's in my life. You know, that. But it has to come off of something. Like someone saying, no, it's not that I smell pot on your clothes. I smell it on your breath. Now we're getting into a conversation that steps over a boundary that Miranda doesn't want to step. But why can't the writing be better? And I'm not even a fucking good writer. Okay, so, I'm a good writer, but I'm not, blowing minds over here. So, it's so much easier to critique when you see it too, like, than when you come up with your own stuff. But comedy concert, do they, and then I watched episode 4 as well, that recap's coming. Are they contractually obligated to say comedy concert every episode? Is this a joke? Are we being trolled? I was texting with some friends, my friends, that do the Bradshaw Boys podcast where they watch Sex and the City. I'm like, they said they think it's Miranda saying, my friend Kevin was like, no, I think Miranda saying comedy concert because that's what she thinks it's called. And I said, I think there's no irony at all. I don't think this is like a character thing where the character's out of touch and it's supposed to be funny. I think Che calls it a comedy concert, or whomever is writing these episodes thinks that's what cool comedians call it, they're outside the box. Because Brady's girlfriend, who shall remain nameless, she picked up on Miranda saying something a little out of touch, like alternative types, but she didn't say, what's a comedy concert, you fucking loser? It seems like we just say comedy concert now. Like in whatever year of our Lord that this show takes place, which I guess is 2021, I guess I have to accept that we say comedy concert in the same way that we accept that they live in New York City. There was COVID last year. No one wears masks. And thank God, I don't want to see people wearing masks on TV. I really don't. I need some escape. So in the world where there was COVID, but no one wears masks, I guess we say comedy concert and we just accept it. Okay. So we don't get anything with Samantha. I wish. We don't get anything with Miranda and Che in this episode. Doesn't come up again. Okay, so now we're going over to Charlotte, whose new friend with the gorgeous eyes. What is that woman? Part fucking alien? Like she's got these beautiful alien eyes. Anyway, whatever her name is, I don't know any new characters' names. That woman that she works with, they're becoming fast friends. They both pick each other up a coffee and they run towards each other in the street. I got you a coffee. It's cute. I enjoy it for them. The friend says, hey, let's do dinner. I'll come over. I'll come over to your place. Charlotte's like, when? Woman's like, tomorrow night. Just us. Keep it simple. But I want to meet some of your friends. Charlotte's like, oh yeah, Charlotte, meanwhile, was calling to make Harry a colonoscopy appointment. I think she was confirming it because you don't just make an appointment for the next day. As someone who has a body and, you make those appointments that are a little bit extra, like for me it'd be a mammogram or an MRI or a ultrasound for my various boob things, a month out. You can go, oh, Thursday? Great, I'll see you tomorrow. So she's making Harry a colonoscopy appointment. And then the running joke is once she makes a dinner plan with this woman, she then picks up the phone immediately and cancels his colonoscopy appointment, which would be the day after the dinner party. You do that because you got to fast the night before and drink all this crazy liquid. So obviously he can't attend a dinner party. But I'm hoping that was just a little running joke because I did already watch episode 5. So this is 4. And there was no Harry colon. I was like, if they give him colon cancer, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to run through the streets of Brooklyn screaming because you cannot kill and maim every fucking man on this show. And this is me saying this. Me, feminist borderline man hater at times. Not that a feminist is a man hater, but my feminism tips into man hatred. I love Steve and Harry. Love. My favorite men in the world. Don't maim and kill them. Okay, so I'm hoping that's just a running thing. If Harry gets colon cancer, you will hear reports of a woman screaming through Brooklyn in protest. But I think it was just a running joke. Let's just hope that it's that. Okay, so then we see Carrie. She wakes up back at the old apartment, the one that she never let go of, the one that she's always had the whole time. I love that they've always kept this apartment for her. It looks great. Such a cute little, whatever it is. It's not even a one bedroom. It's like it's kind of similar to my apartment. It's like a junior one bedroom because there's no door to her bedroom. Even though Aiden made the place bigger when he lived there, and they bought the place next door, but now it seems back to the original size pre-Aiden, so I don't fucking know. And it's so funny that she redid all of the apartment, but never the kitchen. Like, that's the first thing you do, especially because it was a mouse up in there. If you recall, Alexander Petrovsky killed it, which I think was supposed to be a weird moment, and that was the moment that I was like, it's exactly the kind of man I need. I don't do this, let's keep it alive and put it outside. You fucking kill a mouse. Every time. Nothing cute about it. If I see a mouse in the country, in the field, let it be. In my apartment, smash it dead. I can't do it, not because I'm moral, I'm just a fucking scaredy cat, but absolutely murder in the first degree. So, she's back in her old apartment. She's getting out the coffee maker. It doesn't work. Sludge is over. Why would she even bother making coffee? She never made coffee in the first place when she lived there. Like, why are you trying now? I don't know. Maybe she's a new woman because she used to make coffee at the place on Fifth Avenue. But she puts on a fun outfit. Now, this is the Carrie I like. You're in your little studio and you put on a fun outfit. This is the show. This is the show, right? Doesn't matter if Big's alive or dead, or if someone's binary, non-binary, if someone's black. I don't care. The show is Carrie puts on a tutu and goes down the street. Carrie dresses up in something that I don't know where you'd wear this outfit. It's not even like that should be worn at a fancy gala or a dinner party. You don't know where this outfit should be worn. No one is wearing it. No one is wearing a striped t-shirt with a big giant tulle from waist to ground, giant puffy tulle skirt with little booties and a sequin purse. Yes, girl, get it. That is a good outfit. I would wear that outfit if I can get this pandemic weight off. Right now I'm in a Dunkin' Donuts onesie, as I pointed out. Is it cute? Yes, but we cannot wear this come spring. This is velour. It's hot. It's also, I don't think you wear this in public. Maybe you do. I don't know. But that's the show. She comes out of the apartment with her little skirt and her thing, and great outfit. And she's got the sequin purse, and then she has a cloth bag, like if you go to the grocery store and it says New York or nowhere. Hello, I have a sign here that says New York or nowhere. I don't know why I'm trying to prove, like, people in New York have things that say that. It's pretty basic, and I don't mean basic like standard, I mean basic like a dork. But anyway, it made me happy. I was like, these are the things I like. She goes to the bodega next door, which if you've never seen the show, you might go, oh, I guess that was the place she went all the time in the first iteration of Sex and the City. Nope, we've never seen this place before, but she goes, and the guy knows her, even though he calls her Caroline. Ha, funny. He's like, oh, you've moved. You're married. How's married life? She's like, he's dead. And he gives her a free roll and a cup of coffee in those awesome New York City blue coffee cups. Now that scene is, I could watch that on a loop and I'd be like, this is the best show ever written. Give it an Emmy, give it a Globe, give it a fucking Oscar, give it all the writing awards. This is the show for me. Carrie puts on a cute outfit, goes to a dirty bodega, gets a free roll, and a fucking coffee in one of those New York cups, wearing a cute bag that says New York or nowhere. That's all you need. That's the show. I'll watch that. So I just want to give credit where credit is due to shit that I like. So we're back at the podcast studio, which again, is anyone related to Muhammad Atta still alive? Are they willing to do a second 9/11 on New York City? And would they be willing to do a 9/11 on a place that doesn't really exist, which is this podcast studio? It needs to be taken out. I don't want anyone to die. I want them to have to flee the building, and then they all develop an anxiety disorder about going back into the building, and so they don't do the podcast anymore. They don't even do it remotely. The whole podcast dies, whatever it's called, XYZ, they and them. It's a terrible podcast. And again, I don't know why we have to see so much of Bobby Lee on this show. No offense to him. I know him, but it's just women don't tune in to watch Bobby Lee. We tune in to watch Carrie wear the fucking poofy skirts. So anyway, they're in the podcast studio. Colleen comes rolling in. Get your socials up. Carrie, your social media is like a corpse. And everyone's like, her husband just died. And Carrie, instead of going, you disrespectful bitch. And the woman is like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I forgot. But get your socials up. It's like her personal socials don't really have to be a thing for the podcast. It's the podcast socials that have to be up. So you run that. So go fucking get your ass back to your office, wherever you live, and deal with that. But Carrie's just like, okay, I really hope this show is about Carrie finding herself again. You've got to give me the happy ending that she does not do this podcast anymore, that she does her own, that someone is like, girl, why don't you do your own podcast? Why don't you, again, put the headphones on, sit in your fucking closet where all the dresses are super soundproof, and narrate the story of your life. And then that will be, like, please tell me this is where this is all leading. But anyway, at one point, Colleen, the woman yelling about socials, goes, hey, you've got to use social media like your life depends on it. And Che goes, I do, because mine does. Now, Che just did a Netflix special. Now, what I wish Che had said was, even though I just did a Netflix special, I don't make that Chappelle money, so I need to be on social media and promote this podcast because this is my bread and butter. That I would believe. A lot of times, especially with someone non-binary or anyone that's not a white, cis, het person, Netflix will totally pay less to some people. I'm sure of it. So there's a world where, she doesn't make a living wage on that special, even though you might hand her a chunk of money. You go, that's a good chunk of money, but then you divvy it up among all your people and you pay the bills for a year and you're like, oh shit. So, but as I always complain, Dave Chappelle makes $25 million for a special. People think if you're on Netflix, you're making millions. I didn't even make $1 million. Sure, I made 6 figures, but they pay you out over 3 years. Then you pay an agent, manager, lawyer. You know what I mean? It's like the way they pay you at the end of the day. It's just like having any other job that you really couldn't. Whatever. So it's like, I don't know, I just wish she said a detail like that. Do we need details like that? No. But that's who I am in every writer's room. I'm like, there's this moment where I will always pitch those boring, like, can we just add this detail in? Okay. So now Carrie is selling the apartment with Big, which I think is a good choice. There's this moment she's having lunch with Miranda and Charlotte, and Miranda's like, should we get a bottle? And everyone's like, no, because they're on to her drinking. They are drinking wine, but they each just had it by the glass. It depends on how long I was planning to stay. I mean, 1 glass is fine for me. But there's something fun when someone's like, let's get a bottle. That's a good moment. That's a good moment when you're hanging out. It just turns the mood, especially if it happens in the day, which doesn't usually happen because I'm not usually going to day lunches. But When it does happen, it's like, yeah, girl, let's get a fucking bottle. And then Miranda's like, oh, okay, because she doesn't really have a drinking problem. Like, she's problematically drinking, but she doesn't have the disease of alcoholism, which, by the way, we find out in episode 5, like, kind of what it is. So, anyway, but Carrie's like, I'm selling the apartment. And they're like, wait a minute, don't make any crazy decisions. It's like, I think she and Big have a place in the Hamptons, which we haven't mentioned. She's a millionaire. She also owns her own apartment on 70th, whatever. Of course she's going to sell the place that her husband died in. That's like the decision I make as he takes his last breath. I'm already thinking of realtors. Like, of course you don't live there. Get the fuck, you know what I mean? Especially if it's something like an apartment in Manhattan. It's not this farmhouse that you built over generations and everyone's lived there. No. If he's the first corpse in there, get out. If it's like, oh, everyone died in this house, it's tradition. Like, well, maybe. This is an apartment in Manhattan. You can get another one that looks just like it next door. Of course, and they're like, they do this weird thing, which isn't weird. It's something I know about because it's like a therapy kind of 12-steppy thing. Like, don't make any decisions. Halt when you're hungry, angry, lonely, or tired. It's like, that's not really what halt is for. Halt is more for like, I am going to tell my ex right now what I think of him. It's midnight. And it's like, halt. Like, halt. Don't do the action you're about to do. You're going to email your ex. Are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? If you're any of those things, don't do the thing. I'm going to order an entire pizza right now. Halt. Like, it's not like I'm thinking of selling my apartment that my husband died in. I own 2 other pieces of property and I'm a millionaire and the apartment will make me richer. Halt. It's like someone was just excited. I hear the writers. Someone was just excited to put their little therapy thing in there that they know about. And it was like, let's throw it in this scene. So, okay, so now we meet Seema. Seema is pretty much, I think, the new Samantha. Gee, could they make it any more obvious, like giving her the same letters in her name? She's the real estate broker, which at first I didn't even think her acting was that good. She was saying lines like she was reading off a teleprompter. It was really weird. But she's the realtor, and she comes in, and she's like, okay, this apartment, it's fucking amazing. But you've got too much of your personal stuff in it, like this weird artsy-fartsy coffee table. When people look at an apartment, they have to picture themselves in it, and they don't want to see your personal stuff in there because it makes it hard for them to see themselves in it. So we've got to kind of, make this place a little more beige and boring. And of course, for all of us hardcore fans, Carrie says, my husband didn't like beige because the season where he married Natasha and came to regret it right away, he runs into Carrie at Aiden's furniture show, and he says, everything in our place is beige. Natasha loves beige. And Carrie's like, I thought you liked beige, meaning boring over me. And he's like, I don't. So it's a little nod to that for us. Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. And yes, I know about Chris Noth or Noth's sexual harassment things. What do you want me to do? You think there's a man that's not sexually harassing people? Then, think again. All right, so here we go again with the shoes. Now, again, I've talked before, I own a lot of pairs of shoes, but they're like sneakers and chunky wedge combat boots. And you know what I mean? They're not like fancy, expensive pieces that, oh, wow, if I ever just run out of money, I can sell all my shoes. Like, they're not kept nicely. I wear them in the weather. They're for clomping and stomping around on tour and in New York City. So sure, I have a lot of shoes, but it's not from a fashionista place. It's just I don't know, I had a lot of different outfits. I was touring, whatever. But Carrie's got her shoes and they're all it's 500 a pair at least, at the least, thousands of dollars a pair, which is fine. That's her thing. And they're in the closet and they're all nice. I get it, sort of like that everyone has their thing. It's just like, oh my God, I guess you can't stop harping on a thing that has made a character a character. It's like Fonzie and his motorcycle, Carrie and her shoes. I don't know what else, but it just bores me. I'm like, I literally go through the Rolodex in my brain. You're like, what's a Rolodex? Fuck off. Of women I know. I'm like, no one I know, even my friends who are wealthy, none of us talk about shoes. And we talk about stupid shit. Like, I'm not saying liking shoes is shallow. Like, I talk to my friend Sarah Colonna all the time about like makeup shit and like beauty tips and bullshit that we're into. But I don't know, shoes, I literally probably have like 20 close women friends and like none of them have a shoe fetish. A lot are gay. That has nothing to do with it though. The gay, the straight, everybody. It's just like, no one's like into shoes. It's so strange. In my apartment, I'd be like, do not touch all the lotions. But anyway, so Carrie says to Seema, who's like, we're going to do this, we're going to do that to stage the apartment. Carrie's like, I have something important to say. And we already know there's a joke coming because we've set it up with, I have something important to say. And Seema's like, yes. And she goes, don't touch the shoes. And Seema's like, I get it. And it's like, wow. Boy, do these women have a lot in common. She's like, I name my purses. I'm like, fine. I mean, I'm not like, women can't like shoes and purses. That my point is women can, and they can run the world, and we can do anything we want. But I just don't relate. So I'm always just like, huh? And I just don't relate to the high heels thing. I like high heels on men. I don't know. It's just like, I don't get it. Like, I just don't get it. But then Seema says, oh my God, you have this amazing bathroom, closet area. You know what it needs in the staging? A Peloton. Now that's what they used to have a Peloton and their Big died on it. And Carrie, like, zero reaction. It's just like, no. Long story, I'll tell you sometime. It's like, I would be like, you cannot put a Peloton in here. And if she goes, why? I'd say, you can, but I don't want to fucking see it when I come home at night. So you better take it out every night. Every day you put it in here for staging, take it out. Why? If I tell you, it's going to make me cry, and I just put on my mascara. So trust me, you don't want to hear it. It's morbid. Or, you know what I mean? Or if I tell you why, no one's going to want to buy this apartment. Just some fun writing, but that also gives it stakes, where Carrie's like, do not put a fucking Peloton in here. And the woman's like, okay. It was just a weird moment that, like, her husband died on a Peloton, and she just kind of, like, blowing it off. And it's not a plot point that she has no reaction. It's just, like, bad writing. Okay. So then she gets in the car with Seema. Now, everyone says Seema is supposed to be, like, the new Samantha, because she, like, is rich and fabulous, and she does everything. But I think part of me thinks she's like a combination of, she's like a female Big, because she has like her own car and driver, just like Big did. And so anyway, Carrie gets in the back seat with her, and Seema smokes cigarettes. And Seema asks Carrie, like, did you ever smoke? And she's like, oh yeah. And then she's like, but I quit. And then Carrie looks at Seema and she's like, you got a cigarette? And I'm like, yes, women smoking, this is what I relate to instead of shoes. Smoke the butts. And they're smoking cigarettes, not this fucking vaping, not. And so Carrie just rolls down the window and smokes a butt. And I'm like, I just read an article today that in the Arctic, it's like the biggest piece of ice. It's the last piece of ice. It is breaking off in 5 years. Scientists are like, we could not have seen this coming. We did not see this coming this fast. This is shit they were saying 10 years ago would happen within 300 years. It's happening in 5. It's the joke from my act, when can we start smoking? You can start smoking. Once that goes, like, Miami is underwater. Like, we have 5 years. Like, I don't even want to get into it. It's a whole other story. But so I'm like, yes, please smoke. Because there's no sex on this show anymore, which is fine with me, by the way. I never watched it to watch people miming sex. But the smoking, I'm here for the smoking. Smoke a cigarette in your fun skirt and go get one of those coffees with the blue New York City cup. I watched that show over and over. Okay, so they're friends now. So where do we go from here? So I don't want to talk about this part. It's so boring. So Charlotte's black friend, the one I told you about where they get each other a coffee, she's coming over for dinner. And Charlotte is making the guest list. And then she says to Harry, oh my God, what's her face and her husband are going to be the only black people here. And she goes to her neighbor who's black and like harasses her into coming over for dinner. And the woman's like, I told you over text, I can't. And she's like, well, just come by for drinks. It's not funny. Like the premise, like this would work so well on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like Larry has, you know, a dinner party of 10 couples. One couple is black, the rest are white, and everyone's being very white culture, whatever that means, from the littlest thing to maybe something political. And the black couple feels uncomfortable. And maybe they say to him, do you have any black friends? And he'll be like, you guys. And they'll be like, besides us. He's like, I don't count. I don't know what race everyone is. You know, whatever Larry learns or doesn't learn. Like, it could be very funny, right? Or if Larry is sitting at dinner and realizes it, like, boom, 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 you know, the music. And he's like, I only have 2 black friends. And then he's just like, can I ask you something? How do you feel sitting here with 8 white people? Do you like being the only black people? Is it sort of like you get the most attention? Or does, and, you know, and they're like, what? No. You know, like something, Larry David, like that could be a funny curve. But it doesn't work well in the Sex and the City because they're trying to be funny, but it's just not a funny enough show. The writing isn't funny enough. And it comes off very Karen-y and very annoying. Like that just Charlotte is like harassing her black neighbor to come over and then worrying that her friend, who's legitimately your friend, will be the only black person there, which is a legitimate worry. But then like handle your life at another point. Don't try to rush a bunch of black people into your home. And I get it. We don't get the funny scene if she does that, what a normal person would do, which is just take stock of it and be like, shit. But it's, again, they're not writing it funny enough to make me enjoy watching this. It's not Curb, you know? And so luckily her friend cancels dinner, so it wasn't going to happen anyway. But then Charlotte gets invited to this woman's house for dinner. And she's freaking out at Harry. And she's like, we're going to dinner at my black friend's house. And there's going to be black people there. And we have to know all the black authors like Zadie Smith and blah, blah, blah. Oh, my God. And poor Harry is just like, okay. And he's like, can't I just say I really liked Michelle Obama's book? And Charlotte's like, no, Harry. Now, again, this is why I'm like, I feel so bad for the actor, whatever his name is, Evan Handler, because, you know, he's not just a prop. He's not just like, I mean, that's just how they're treating the men. It's like, he's her husband. Can't he say to her, sweetie, you're acting crazy, or whatever, you know, funny term. Your friend knows that you're not like steeped in black culture. You're Charlotte York Goldenblatt from the Upper West Side, you know, you wear bows in your hair and your Louis Vuitton dog collar, you know, for your dog, not for herself. And she likes you for you. Like, she's not expecting you to arrive with all this knowledge. Like, yes, it's a bigger question that we don't have a diverse friend group. But for tonight, let's just go and let's listen. If people are talking about the latest books and it's all from a black perspective, just listen. You know, can he say something of substance that doesn't make him such a tool? or just a joke. Like, this is a human being. Like, I want to root for her having an awesome husband. Like, the writers are just fucking over the men so hard. So they get to the event, they get to the dinner party, and they're the only white couple, which, again, it's not presented in any sort of way. It's like it just is, which is fine, you know. And Charlotte says to this woman, I haven't seen you since blah, blah. How's your daughter? And the woman goes, I'm not who you think I am. So Charlotte mistook this black woman for another black woman. And it's like, Jesus, are we really here? She's met black people before. Like, it's just such overkill. It's like, I get it. That is the most awkward thing you can do. Then harp on it. Make the entire rest of the scene about that. And instead the woman just says, I know who you're talking about, but that's not me. And she's very graceful and we're over it. Again, is it trying to be funny? I don't know. If it was Curb Your Enthusiasm, which I know it isn't, that could be an entire scene, right? Where Larry goes, if he's self-conscious about it, he can then keep bringing up, you know, one time I confused Ted Danson with John Carrie. Because if you think about it, they look alike. You know, so I don't just think black people look alike. I think white people look like, you know, it's just something to give me humor. I'm not here to watch an after-school special about racial shit that I learned about 50 years ago. You know, so anyway, at the dinner, the pivotal moment is that somebody, I don't fucking know even, the woman, her new friend, whose name I don't know, her new friend's mother-in-law is like, this lady spends so much money on art, I'm worried about their financial future. And her house is like a museum of beautiful art. Now, Charlotte used to work at an art gallery in the original Sex and the City series. And she left it to be a mom full-time when she married Trey. And they never had a kid, and then she met Harry and whatever. So she never worked again. And so Charlotte does this whole thing where she saves the day by being like, don't worry about your daughter-in-law's art investments. This shit's worth a lot of money. But the way she acts it, I was like, is this take one and she just learned the script? Is she reading off a teleprompter? It was the worst acting I've ever seen. She's like, and this over here is a Simon Simon painting. It is like owning original sheet music by Beethoven. It's like, who talks like that? You'd be like, oh, Mrs. Schlangenblanc, don't even worry about your daughter's financial future because it's all here. This painting done by Simon Simon, in the art world, what people are saying is this is like owning original sheet music by Beethoven. And do you know what original sheet music by Beethoven goes for? You can't count that high, all right? Now this over here, so then she goes, and this painting is by Shirley Shirley. And she actually did the first portrait of Michelle Obama, except she acts it weird and goes, and she actually did the first portrait of Michelle Obama. Like weird, and then Harry goes, I loved her book, and everyone laughs. No one laughs at that. No one laughs at that. Stop writing shit for black people to do that they're not doing in real life. No one's laughing at that because we don't know what the joke is. We know the joke. Why would the room laugh? Yeah, he liked Michelle Obama's book. But it could have been a funnier joke. He could have been next to Charlotte and been like, should I bring up that I liked her book? And she's like, stop. That would have been funny. Instead of having him be a joke and go, I liked her book. Shut up, Harry. Like, why is the writing bad? I could make this funny. Give me the scripts. Give them to me. I won't even make you change them up that much. I'll just write in the margins. No, do this, do that. I don't really I have a writing job and the show is already written. I'm just being cunty. But, oh my Lord in heaven. Okay, so. Okay, so Charlotte says to Harry when they're planning the dinner, I forgot to mention this, we have to bring it, like, you know, like, we've got our A game. I'm only bringing that up because in episode 5, somebody's like, we have to bring it. I'm like, why are we saying old expressions? Okay, so then Miranda goes out to dinner with her black friend, which is her lawyer teacher at her human rights class or whatever thing she's doing. And they go out to dinner together because I don't know why they're talking about motherhood and inequality or something in class, and I don't know, they're becoming friends, that's why. So they're sitting there and the lawyer woman teacher is like, oh, my hormones are crazy, I'm on IVF. You know, I don't even know if I want a kid. Like, I've tried IVF before, and when it didn't work, I was actually kind of happy that I wasn't pregnant. And she's like asking Miranda, do you have kids? And Miranda's like, yeah. And then like the woman's basically saying like, should I have a fucking kid or not? Like, am I going to regret not having a kid? And Miranda does this whole thing like regrets, or it's basically a backdoor for us to see Miranda say, you can love your life and you can have regrets. You can have regrets if you do have kids. You can have regrets if you don't. But the bottom line is, you know, you can have it all, but it's really fucking hard. And don't look at things in terms of regret, because there's always regret, but then there's good and bad and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, this woman really sounds like she doesn't want kids. And if I were Miranda, again, it's a TV show. So like, let's have these characters go fucking balls out. Like in real life, maybe you'd be a little more diplomatic, but it's not real life. It's TV. So it's not even TV, it's HBO. It's not even HBO, it's HBO Max. So let's balls out, everybody. Let's say, you know what? It's not my business. It sounds like you want permission to not have kids and that you want to make sure you won't regret it. And let me tell you something. You may always regret something you didn't do, but it's not going to haunt you the way you think it is. And I don't think you want kids. Fucking balls out, say it. That's a big stance to have. Instead of this bullshit, like 20 years ago feminism of like, you can have it all. How about tell someone, I don't think you want fucking kids, don't do it. And then maybe that comes back later and the woman like blames her for something or whatever. Or maybe just say, you know, my friend Carrie and her husband Big, they didn't have kids and he just fucking died. And if they had kids, she'd be a widow at age 55 with a 5-year-old. So I'm just saying, like, you know, people don't live forever. So really think about all the aspects of having kids. Do you want to be a single mom if your husband dies? Like, just say it. Come on, give me something to watch here. Okay, so then Seema, the real estate agent, is talking to Carrie about dating. Because they went to this apartment to look at something for Carrie to buy, blah, blah, blah. And the woman does this little comedy rant that is like 20 years old, probably from Michael Patrick King. And she's like, oh, Carrie, look at this. And she shows her some guy on a dating app. And Carrie's like, how long have you been on these things? She's like, I've been on them forever. She's like, I was on OkCupid, and it was more like, are you fucking kidding me, Cupid? I get it. It's not that great a joke. I think a normal person, it would just be cuter and just simpler to be like, it's not OkCupid, I'll tell you that. I was on OkCupid, not okay. Just quick, you know. She's like, then I was on Tinder, and I met the guy who cried after sex. And Carrie goes, so he was too Tinder? Get it? Tender? That whole scene was written because someone thought that was a good joke, 100%. This is my problem with this scene. We're talking about dating apps. We're not talking about dating. There was plenty of episodes of Sex and the City, the first time around in the 90s, where guys did weird things after sex. They called their mother's name out during sex. They had smelly balls, whatever. Right? A guy crying during sex or after sex, definitely weird. But it has nothing to do with that you met him on Tinder. You could meet that guy anywhere. Lunch date, blind date, at a bar. You know, like, it's not dating app specific. I feel like if you're going to talk about how these things suck, you should be specific. Like, this one guy lied about his age. Or, you know, something more realistic would be like, Carrie, do you know that men on dating apps enter their age, but then they enter that they're only willing to see women between 20 and 40, even though they're 55. And so if you put your real age in 55, you only get men 60 and over who want to look at you. So you don't even get shown men your age because they're not available to be seen because they haven't selected that they want to see women in their 50s. Like, that would be an interesting conversation. Instead of this like one-off joke, he cried after sex. Well, that's not because you met him on an app. That's because this is a weird guy who cries after sex. So make it an app and dating app specific thing. Like, when you can choose who you are shown, and men are like, I don't even want to see women over 50. I don't even want to take a chance that I could meet a fucking hot ass successful woman. Like, it's not worth it. Just like, that is a big deal. And that is a real thing going on in the dating world. Let's see that on this show instead of these one-off jokes. Anyway, so Carrie says to her, well, I think it's great that you're still putting yourself out there. And when she said that, I was like, ugh. But Seema didn't seem to react. Well, check this out. Later on in the episode, Seema accidentally broke a photo of Carrie and Big from like when they were young. It was on Big's side of the bed on his nightstand. And the frame was perfectly intact. It was just the glass that was broken. Picture not affected. She's like, I'm so sorry, this broke. And Carrie's like, no, in her Carrie way. And Seema's like, oh, well, I want 100% of the glass replaced. And Carrie's like, you can't replace the glass. You can't replace it. It can't be replaced. He's dead and it can't be replaced. And she's like freaking out on this woman. But it wasn't one of those things where you're like, oh, this is the moment where a widow breaks down. It's like, oh, this is how Carrie behaves to everybody and thinks it's normal. Like, this is an emotionally reactive, immature person that she's always been. And Seema was just like, what? And Carrie's like, doing the, and Seema's like, okay, so if I hurt you by being insensitive about this picture and acting like the glass was the most important thing, can I tell you what you did to me? And she basically tells Carrie, sometimes I don't feel sorry for you because you found the love of your life and you were married. And I know it's fucked up, but that's how I feel. She's like, I've never found love. And I'm on these websites and apps because I believe in it. And you tell me I'm still putting myself out there? Why the fuck wouldn't I be? Like, I believe in love just like you did. I haven't found it yet. And Carrie's really affected by this. And she's like, oh my God, I'm sorry. It's a great scene. But it was like, thank you. Welcome to the friend group, Seema, the only person who fucking has ever put Carrie in her place. Like, it made me so happy. So then anyway, Carrie sees the Peloton that Seema did bring into the place, which again, if Carrie had set a stricter boundary, she never would have had to see it. But she's like, I gotta get out of here. So she grabs Big's ashes, which are still in a box, and the urn is inside the box. And she puts it in a Barney's bag. And they do this like slow motion, like, I think because Barney's closed in New York, and like in one of the first episodes, Carrie stayed over Big's house and she left some of her things there on purpose as like a, and he's like, oh, I found some of your things, like your toothbrush and your, extra pair of underwear, and he put it in a Barney's bag and gave it back to her. And everyone was like, oh shit. So I think it was like a nod to that. So like cute, fun, whatever. But she goes back into her closet at her original apartment and she puts the bag amongst the shoes there and says to his ashes, this is just until I can find somewhere really good to put you. And I have to admit, I don't know where his ashes are going to end up. I actually really couldn't tell you. Do you guys want to guess in the comments? Like, do you think she would sprinkle some of them in Napa, like we had his thing, or she's going to keep some like in a locket in her heart? Like, is she going to put some in her shoes that she wore when they got married that she had on when he died and they got wet? Like, where is she going to, I can't think of like a Big and Carrie place where she'll put the ashes. Like, I literally don't know. So I don't know if you have any guesses, I'd love to know. But anyway, because she's getting on a chair to put the Barney's bag up on the top of her closet, and she's like, ow, and touching her lower back. And I'm like, she can't stand on a chair without her lower back hurting. Like, what is this, more old people shit when they're not even old? But then it comes back to visit us in episode 5. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. So I think that's everything. Let's see. I actually made notes here like a professional. I think that's it. Yeah. Look at me. I went through everything. My notes. Don't touch the shoes. Shut up. Smoking cigarettes, all caps. Yay. Need black friends. I get it. Okay, great. Oh, and I also didn't like when Miranda was having dinner with her lawyer friend, like every other thing, they kept being like, okay, prosecutor, tell me this. You argued your case really well, just in normal conversation. It was like, stop it. You don't talk, just because you're a lawyer, you're not like, I can't. Sometimes these are really written like fucking Hallmark Christmas movies. No offense to Hallmark Christmas movies. Okay, well, that's my recap. We'll see you again for episode 5. Will I tape it right now? I don't know. I'm sweating my face off. But hope you enjoyed it. And just like that, we're done.